Here's a look at the big board. You got 8 games involving Big Ten teams this weekend on the Big Ten Network. Just look at that top line. We got a game at noon Eastern, 11 Central. We got a game at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central, and we got a primetime game as well with USC and Washington. That's at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central time. On the bottom left, you see Minnesota taking on Illinois. That happens on FS1, noon Eastern, 11 Central time. That's an interesting matchup. This is a Gophers team that has been kind of sneaky, right? They've had a really good defense, even though they don't get talked about among the great defenses. Certainly in their past defense, they've won 3 consecutive games going up against an Illinois team that's been in the national spotlight for the last month or so. I like this matchup.
I agree. And the way that Minnesota is starting to play, and getting to talk to PJ Fleck on Big Ten Radio this week, he always exudes a certain level of control and confidence. But you can see he's really pleased with the way his team is playing. And it's a bit different than we're accustomed to seeing the Golden Gophers play on offense, because the way they're operating, they're leading with the passing attack. And PJ Fleck was telling me just yesterday, he kind of expected that coming into the season, even as talented as Darius Taylor is as a running back, but having an offensive line that was going to have some new moving pieces, the talent that he can access at wide receiver, and now a quarterback in Max Brosmer that continues to grow throughout the season. He's gone beyond just being efficient to now getting the point of being explosive. He is coming off a career high effort that he's had as a signal caller, and multiple receivers with multiple touchdown catches in that game as well. You understand why that composure, that confidence is being exuded by PJ Fleck. And I think for the Gophers defense, I agree with you. They're really under-regarded for what they've done this season. Early in the year, they were shutting down some passing attacks that didn't throw the football very effectively. As they've gone forward here, though, now we are seeing them facing high-level quarterback play, high-level schematics on offense, and they're still making life really difficult on their opponents to both throw the football and to just drop back and pass it. So this is a really good matchup, especially considering the Illini now coming off their second defeat of the season. How do they respond? What kind of bounce back do they show?
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go. We talk so much about the great scenes in Bloomington recently. Champagne's had some awesome crowds. They're creating a really great home field advantage, multiple sellouts this year for the first time in more than a decade. But they're coming off a real bad beatdown. I mean, it was clear from the get-go Oregon was the much better team in that game. How concerned are you about them losing whatever momentum and positive energy they had before this past weekend's game?
It's a big task for Brett Bielema, I think, because it's one thing to try and recover when you feel like, we played really well and we just couldn't quite get it done. It's another when you just sort of get overmatched by the opponent. And that's kind of what it looked like against the number 1 team in the country. So it's not the most shocking result. But within that locker room, Illinois is at a point now where they take the field against every team every week and expect to win that game, expect to compete and play at a really high level. Luke Altmaier had been protecting the football really well throughout most of the season. He has multiple turnovers in that game against the Oregon Ducks. So to be able to lock in and kind of get back to the precision that we saw Illinois operating with, I think will be a big part of that task. And to make sure for the Illini defense, Aaron Henry, trying to figure out how does he go about making Max Brosmer uncomfortable in this game. He's certainly got multiple guys that can rush the quarterbacks. That makes a big difference when each outside linebacker essentially can beat guys one-on-one. So that's going to be a very big deal for the Gophers in their pass protection to make sure Gabe Akers isn't going to be able to wreck the game against them. But what they do, I think, especially on pass coverage on the back end, can they take the ball away? Can they try to sort of shrink and diminish the Gophers' playbook? Because we've seen Greg Harbaugh get more and more schematically diverse with how they're going about passing the football, trusting the timing and precision of a lot of outcuts and outbreaking routes within the Gophers' passing attack that were really impressive to watch them execute in their last game. So can the Illini take that away from an alignment and an assignment perspective with their pattern match and see whether or not Brosmer can consistently throw the ball up the rails, where now maybe you're going to have more hands and more deflected passes to possibly put the ball in harm's way?